Alright, so I guess I should start from the beginning. My name's Nathan, and up until a couple of weeks ago, I thought I had a pretty normal life. Married to Michelle for 7 years, decent job in consulting, nothing too crazy. I traveled for work sometimes, but I always came back home to her. Or at least, I thought I did. Then, I came back from a business trip, rolling my suitcase up to the house, and something felt off. The porch light was off, and the front door was slightly open. Not in a welcome home, honey way, more like someone had walked away mid-thought and never looked back. I stepped inside, and that's when my stomach dropped. My stuff, everything I owned, was piled up in the garage. Clothes, personal items, even my damn toothbrush just sitting there like a piece of garbage. And on the kitchen counter, where we usually left notes for each other, was a single text message on my phone. Consider yourself divorced. That was it. No explanation. No face-to-face talk. No, let's work through this, or we need to talk. Just 6 words that flipped my life upside down. At first, I thought maybe this was some kind of sick joke or misunderstanding. Maybe she had a meltdown, maybe there was some emergency I didn't know about. But when I tried to call her, straight to voicemail. Tried again, same thing. I was locked out of my house, out of my marriage, and completely blindsided. I didn't even know where to start, so I did what any guy in my situation would do, I went to the nearest bar. That's where I met Jeanette, the bartender. Nice lady, probably in her late 40s, the kind of woman who's seen it all. She took one look at me and knew something was wrong. I told her the short version, came home, kicked out, no clue why. She hesitated for a second before leaning in. You sure you don't know why? I shook my head. Not a clue. That's when she dropped the bomb. Michelle was in here last night, she said, wiping down the counter. Celebrating something. With Dan Mosey. Now, if you don't know who Dan Mosey is, lucky you. He's Michelle's boss. A real smug, condescending piece of work who's always acted just a little too friendly with her. I never liked him, but Michelle always brushed it off, said he was just charming and harmless. Apparently, not so harmless. Jeanette went on. They were drinking, laughing, real cozy. She said something about finally being free. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just kicking me out. She was replacing me. And she wasn't even hiding it. I sat there, staring at my drink, feeling like the biggest idiot on the planet. 7 years, and this is how it ends. Not with a fight, not with a discussion, but with a text and a celebration with another man. I clenched my fist under the counter. Alright, Michelle. You want to play dirty? I'll play too. That I barely slept that night. I just sat in that empty condo my firm owned, one of the vacant ones we used for out-of-town consultants, and stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything. Michelle didn't just leave me. She planned this. She lined everything up, packed my stuff, celebrated her freedom, and made sure I walked into her perfect little world where she was suddenly rid of me and happy with Dan freaking Mosey. I woke up the next morning with one thought in my head, I need proof. Jeanette had given me a start, but I wasn't about to just take some bar talk and run with it. If Michelle wanted to rewrite history and make me the fool, I was going to make sure she ate every single one of her lies. First, I checked our shared accounts. I still had access, guess she hadn't thought to lock me out yet. And there it was. Hotel charges. Multiple stays at a high-end hotel downtown. Some during times when I was away for work, some even when I was home. I gritted my teeth. Next, I checked her social media. I hadn't looked too closely before because I trusted her. But now I saw all the subtle changes. The posts about new beginnings. The comments from her work friends, things like, you deserve to be happy, girl, and so excited for you. Yeah. Real subtle. I still didn't know how long this had been going on, but I was about to find out. I decided to dig a little deeper. A buddy of mine, Mark, worked in IT security, and I knew he could get me access to some things. Nothing crazy illegal, just enough to confirm what I already knew. I shot him a message. Hey, man. I need a favor. Think you can help me track down some info? Mark, what kind of info? Michelle's been cheating. I need proof. Mark, damn. Say less. Mark didn't ask too many questions. He knew I wasn't the type to pull something shady unless I had a reason. Within an hour, he called me back. You're not gonna like this, he said. I already don't like any of this. She's still at that hotel. Right now. With him. I swear, my vision went red for a second. She didn't even have the decency to lay low. She was still in the middle of it while I was sitting here trying to figure out what went wrong. I clenched my jaw. You got the room number? Yeah. 1406. I hung up. I had two choices. I could storm down there, kick down the door, and start throwing punches, or I could be smart. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. No, I was going to make sure this backfired in the worst way possible. I sat in my car outside that hotel for a good 10 minutes, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Room 1406. Michelle and Dan were up there, probably lying in bed, laughing, thinking they had won. I wasn't about to give them a dramatic confrontation. No yelling. No fighting. That would make me look like the fool. I needed something better. I needed to flip the script. So I made a call. Hey, Mark. Got another favor. You want me to get room service to accidentally walk in on them? Nah, man. I need something bigger. You still got that guy, what's his name, who does private investigation work? Mark chuckled. You're really going for it, huh? Oh, you have no idea. 20 minutes later, I had an appointment set up with a PI named Greg. His specialty? Catching cheaters. I met him at a diner a few blocks away, showed him the hotel charges, the social media posts, everything. He just nodded, taking notes like this was another day at the office. This is textbook, he said, sipping his coffee. She's not even being careful. Want me to tail them? Get pictures. Not just pictures. I need video. I need texts, calls, everything. Greg smirked. I like the way you think. I handed him some cash as a retainer. You get me what I need, and there's more where that came from. Now the waiting game began. The first crack in Michelle's lie. I knew I had to keep up appearances. If Michelle thought I was completely out of the picture, she'd get sloppy. I spent the next couple of days laying low, acting like I was just processing things. No angry messages. No desperate calls. Then, out of nowhere, she texted me. Michelle, hey, I hope you're okay. Just wanted to check in. I almost laughed out loud. Check in. She kicked me out with a text message, and now she wanted to check in like I was some ex-coworker she bumped into at a grocery store. I played it cool. I'm fine. Just getting my things in order. Michelle, that's good. I think this is for the best. I hope we can be civil about everything. Civil, she wanted to be civil. Of course. No hard feelings. I could almost feel her relief through the phone. She thought I was rolling over. That was exactly what I wanted her to think. What she didn't know was that Greg had already sent me the first batch of evidence. A clear video of her and Dan in the hotel lobby, holding hands. Kissing. Checking in together. Text logs where she told a friend, I finally did it. Dan is so much more of a man than Nathan ever was. I stared at that message for a long time. More of a man. Oh, Michelle. You have no idea what's coming. That I wasn't going to let Michelle and Dan walk away from this unscathed. They wanted to humiliate me. I was about to return the favor, tenfold. Greg was working fast. By the end of the week, I had everything I needed. Pictures, videos, text messages, solid proof of her affair. I wasn't just collecting this for revenge, I was preparing for the real fight, the divorce. See, Michelle thought she was smart by kicking me out. But what she didn't realize was that she just gave up her claim on the house. If she wanted to play dirty, I was about to bury her. Time to move. Step 1, lawyer up. I found the meanest divorce attorney I could afford. A woman named Patricia Hayes, mid-50s, tough as nails, and known for tearing apart cheaters in court. I sat down in her office, slid the folder of evidence across the table, and watched as she flipped through the pages with an approving nod. "This is good," she said. "Real good. We can hit her for infidelity, abandonment, and even financial misconduct if she used shared funds for this affair." I grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that." Step 2, expose the lie. Michelle had been acting like she was the innocent party. She told mutual friends that I was the problem, that I was emotionally unavailable, that our marriage had been over for a while. I needed to shatter that narrative. So I made a plan. A public plan. The party that changed everything. Michelle's birthday was coming up, and every year, she had a big dinner with friends and family. Even though she kicked me out, she had no clue I knew the truth yet. I wasn't about to let that opportunity go to waste. I sent a message to one of her close friends, Lisa, someone who still liked me and wasn't fully buying Michelle's story. Hey, I was thinking, maybe I should surprise Michelle at her birthday dinner. Show her I'm not bitter about the split. Lisa, that's actually really sweet. I think she'd appreciate it. She had no idea what I was actually planning. The night of the dinner, I walked into that restaurant like I didn't have a care in the world. Michelle was sitting at the head of the table, looking completely blindsided as I strolled up. "Nathan," she stammered. "What are you doing here?" I smiled. "I wouldn't miss your birthday, Michelle." I could see Dan shift uncomfortably in his seat. He wasn't expecting me either. I pulled out an envelope, placed it in front of her, and slid it across the table. "Got you a little something." She hesitated before opening it. Inside were the pictures of her and Dan checking into the hotel. The color drained from her face. The table went dead silent. A few of our friends leaned in, eyes widening as they saw the photos over her shoulder. I didn't say a word. I just waited. She looked up at me, mouth opening and closing, completely speechless. What is this?" she finally whispered. I leaned in slightly, just enough for only her and Dan to hear. "This," I said, "is me making sure everyone knows exactly who you are." I turned, nodded to Lisa, and walked out. I didn't need to see what happened next. I had already won. The second I stepped out of that restaurant, my phone started blowing up. "Lisa, WTF just happened?" "Michelle is freaking out." "Mark, dude, I wish I was there to see it." Dan looked like he was gonna throw up. "Random friend, bro." That was savage. I didn't reply to any of them. I just got in my car, drove back to my condo, and cracked open a beer. Mission accomplished. But I knew Michelle wasn't going to go down quietly. The panic calls begin. Not even 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Michelle." I let it ring. Then she called again. And again. After the 5th time, she texted. "Michelle, Nathan, please pick up. We need to talk." "Nah. We really don't." I ignored her. Then, 5 minutes later, I got another text, this time from an unknown number. "Dan, we need to talk." I actually laughed. Dan Mosey. The homewrecker. The guy who thought he could replace me. He was texting me like we were business partners who had a small disagreement. I didn't bother replying. Let them sweat. Michelle tries to spin the story. The next morning, Lisa sent me a long message. "Lisa, Michelle is telling everyone you overreacted and made a huge scene. She's saying she only went to the hotel with Dan after you emotionally checked out of the marriage. I almost spat out my coffee. Emotionally checked out? I was literally blindsided by the divorce. But I knew she'd try something like this. I was ready. So I made my move. Dropping the bomb. I sent the proof, the pictures, the hotel receipts, the texts Greg pulled from her social media, to all of our mutual friends and family. No commentary, no dramatic message. Just. Since Michelle wants to tell her version of the story, here's the truth. Make up your own minds. Within an hour, my phone exploded. Friend number 1, bro, she's done. Friend number 2, I feel sick. She was lying to all of us. Michelle's cousin, I can't believe she did this to you. Michelle's mom, call me when you can. I don't approve of what she did. Michelle, on the other hand, dead silent. That's when I knew it hit her. Dan's life starts falling apart. Now, let's talk about Dan Mosey. The guy who thought he could parade around with my wife and come out unscathed. Turns out, Dan's boss wasn't a fan of workplace affairs. When Greg dug through Michelle and Dan's texts, we found out that they had been using company resources, expense accounts, travel budgets, to fund their little romance. So, being the responsible citizen I am, I sent an anonymous tip to HR. 2 days later, Dan was fired. Michelle finally breaks. 3 nights after the dinner, I finally picked up when Michelle called. Not because I wanted to hear her excuses, but because I wanted to hear her break. The second I answered, she was already crying. Nathan, please, can we just talk? I leaned back in my chair. We are talking. I never wanted this to happen like this, she sobbed. Things got out of control. I stayed silent. Let her ramble. I wasn't happy, Nathan. I didn't know how to tell you. I cut her off. You didn't know how to tell me. So instead, you packed my stuff and sent me a text. Then ran off to a hotel with Dan the same night. Silence. I sighed. Michelle, I'm not here to listen to your excuses. You made your choice. You thought I'd roll over and let you rewrite the story. Now you're dealing with the consequences. She sniffled. I lost everything. I smiled. Yeah. You did. Then I hung up. I blocked her number, took another sip of my beer, and for the first time in weeks, I felt peace. After I hung up on Michelle, I expected her to disappear, lick her wounds in silence, maybe try to rebuild whatever was left of her life. I was wrong. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, but curiosity got the best of me, so I checked. It was Michelle. Her voice was shaky, barely above a whisper. Nathan, please. I need to talk to you. I know I messed up. She inhaled sharply like she was trying not to sob. I lost my job. Dan won't even return my calls. My parents are barely speaking to me. I don't know what to do. I don't have anywhere to go. I almost laughed. Now she wanted to talk. After she threw me away like I was nothing. I didn't call back. Instead, I forwarded the voicemail to Mark with a simple text. Karma is working faster than I expected. Mark, LMO. Dude, she's circling the drain. Do not let her suck you back in. I won't. But I'm not done yet. Michelle's life goes from bad to worse. The next week was a beautiful disaster for Michelle. She lost her job. Turns out, Dan had promised her a promotion, probably part of his whole "leave your husband and I'll take care of you" act. But when he got fired, the company looked into their little relationship and found out she'd been misusing company time and resources too. They fired her the same day. Dan ghosted her. Lisa told me Michelle had been frantically calling and texting him, but he wasn't answering. I guess he thought she was worth losing a marriage over, but not a job. Poetic justice. Her parents cut her off. Michelle's mom actually called me. She apologized, said she was disgusted by what her daughter had done. They weren't kicking her out, but they weren't offering to help her either. Mutual friends? Gone. After I sent out the proof, almost everyone sided with me. Michelle was toxic now. No one wanted to be associated with a woman who nuked her own marriage for a failed affair. Lisa summed it up perfectly in a text. Lisa, she went from acting like she had the perfect new life to sitting alone in her parents' house with nothing. I should have felt bad. I didn't. She shows up at my door. About a week after the fallout, I was kicking back in my condo, enjoying my new life, when I heard a knock. I opened the door. There she was. Michelle. She looked nothing like the woman who kicked me out. Her hair was a mess, dark circles under her eyes. She was wearing some old hoodie, not the polished, put-together version of herself she used to present. Nathan, she said softly, looking at me like she was searching for something, pity, forgiveness, anything. I didn't say a word. I just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Waiting. She exhaled shakily. Can we talk? I smirked. About what? Her lip trembled. Everything. Us. What happened? Her voice cracked. I know I ruined everything. I tilted my head. Yeah. You did. She swallowed hard. I was stupid, Nathan. I thought Dan was the answer to all my problems. I thought I wanted something new, something exciting. She gave a sad, bitter laugh. Turns out, I threw away a good man for nothing. I just stared at her. She looked down at her hands. I miss you. I chuckled. No, Michelle. You miss your old life. You miss being comfortable. She shook her head quickly. No, I miss you. Her voice cracked again, and tears started falling. I love you, Nathan. That almost made me angry. Now she wanted to throw around love? Now she realized she had something good? I leaned in just a little, my voice calm. You didn't love me, Michelle. You loved what I gave you. Stability. Security. Loyalty. And you threw it away for some office fling. She was crying hard now, hands trembling. Please, Nathan. I just want to fix things. I took a deep breath, looked at her one last time, and said the words I knew she'd never recover from. You're not my problem anymore. Then I shut the door in her face. And damn, it felt good. After I shut the door in Michelle's face, I stood there for a second, listening. I could hear her sobbing quietly on the other side. She didn't knock again. She didn't try to argue. After a minute or two, I heard her footsteps fade away. She finally got it. She was dead to me. I exhaled and walked back inside, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. But there was still one last thing I needed to do before I could officially close this chapter. Sealing her fate. I called Patricia, my lawyer. Hey, Patricia. How soon can we move forward with the divorce? She didn't miss a beat. Already working on it. With the infidelity evidence, we're pushing for full asset control and a no spousal support clause. I grinned. Beautiful. Michelle had no idea, but she was about to lose everything. See, she might have packed my things and thrown me out, but she was the one who abandoned the marriage. In legal terms, that meant I had the upper hand. And since I had undeniable proof of her affair, she wasn't getting a damn cent from me. I wasn't just walking away. I was walking away with everything. The sweet taste of justice. A week later, Michelle texted me again. Michelle, Nathan, please. Can we at least talk about the divorce before lawyers get involved? I smiled. She was panicking. Me, no need. My lawyer will be in touch. Her response came fast. Michelle, you don't have to do this. We can settle this between us. Michelle, I don't want to fight. Me, you should have thought about that before you cheated. Blocked. That was the last message I ever sent her. Dan gets what's coming to him. Meanwhile, things weren't looking great for Dan Mosey. After getting fired, his wife, oh yeah, did I mention he was married, filed for divorce and took their house. His reputation was in the toilet. No company in the industry wanted to touch him after the scandal. The last I heard, he was unemployed, living in a rental apartment, and drinking himself stupid every night. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. Michelle's final message. A month passed, and I had completely moved on. Then, out of nowhere, I got an email. From Michelle. It was long, full of apologies and regret. She admitted everything, how she let the thrill of something new cloud her judgment, how she thought Dan was some big shot who would give her a better life. How she realized too late that she had thrown away the one person who actually loved her. The final lines stuck with me. I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. I'll regret it forever. I read it once. Then I deleted it. No response. No closure. She wasn't worth it. Moving on, for real this time. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. I walked away clean. No money to Michelle. No strings attached. Completely free. I got a promotion at work, started traveling more, and even met someone new, a woman who actually valued me. And Michelle? Last I heard, she was working a low-level admin job, struggling to pay rent, alone. Actions have consequences. She learned that lesson the hard way. And me? I was finally living my best life after the divorce was finalized, life started feeling normal again. Actually, scratch that, better than normal. No more stress, no more wondering if my wife was lying to me, no more walking on eggshells. I was free. Work was going great. I picked up new clients, got promoted, and even started traveling for fun instead of just business. For the first time in years, I wasn't living for someone else. And the best part? I met someone. A fresh start. Her name was Emma. We met at the gym, completely by accident. I was waiting for a machine when she made a joke about me looking too serious for a Saturday morning workout. We started talking, and for the first time since everything with Michelle, I felt light. She was different from Michelle in every way. No mind games. No pretending. Just real. I didn't tell her about my past right away. I didn't want to be that guy who dumps his baggage on someone new. But when I finally did, she just smiled and said, "Well, her loss. You deserve better." She wasn't wrong. Meanwhile, Michelle was still drowning. Every once in a while, I'd hear little updates about Michelle from mutual friends. None of them were good. She was struggling financially. Turns out, she really relied on my income more than I thought. With no job security and no spousal support from me, she was barely scraping by. She lost more friends. Most people didn't want to be around someone who lied and betrayed her own husband. She still tried to reach out. Not to me directly, but to my friends. Little, casual messages to Lisa, Mark, and a few others, just checking in. But they all knew the game. Lisa texted me one day. "Lisa, Michelle asked about you again. She said she just wants to talk." Me, tell her I'm good. And tell her that's all she needs to know. Lisa, already did. She wasn't part of my world anymore. She never would be again. The final nail in the coffin. One day, out of nowhere, I got a friend request. Michelle. I just stared at it. I clicked on her profile. Her once perfectly curated life? Gone. She had deleted most of her pictures, barely posted anything, and the ones that were left? She looked miserable. She had nothing left but regret. I didn't block her. I just ignored her. Let her sit there, watching me move on, watching me be happy. And that was my revenge. I thought Michelle had finally accepted defeat. That she had realized there was no coming back from what she did. But I should have known better. A few weeks after she sent that pathetic friend request, she showed up again. Not at my door this time, thank God, but at Emma's workplace. Yeah. She tracked down my new girlfriend. Emma worked at a small cafe downtown. Real cozy, real quiet. I had mentioned it to some mutual friends, and I guess word got back to Michelle because one day, while Emma was in the middle of a shift, Michelle walked in. The confrontation. Later that evening, Emma called me. "You're not gonna believe what just happened," she said. "What?" "Your ex-wife came into the cafe." I nearly dropped my phone. "No. Freaking way. What did she say?" Emma sighed. She came up to the counter, ordered a coffee, then just stared at me. Like she was studying me. Then she finally asked, "Are you with Nathan?" I clenched my jaw. This woman had no shame. Emma continued. I told her yes, and she just sighed. Like she was disappointed. Then she said, "I hope he treats you better than he treated me." I burst out laughing. Unbelievable. Emma laughed too. I didn't even know what to say. I just looked at her and said, "Oh, trust me. He does." I grinned. Emma was a keeper. Then she got serious. She looked broken, Nathan. Like she was holding on to something that's already gone. I sighed. That's because she is. She lost everything, and now she's trying to rewrite the past so she can live with herself. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I feel kinda bad for her." I shook my head. Don't. She made her bed. And she was lying in it. Alone. The final goodbye. That night, I did something I should have done a long time ago. I blocked Michelle on everything. Social media. Phone. Email. Every last connection was cut. No more pity. No more second chances. She was nothing to me. And with that, I closed the door on her forever. After blocking Michelle for good, I felt lighter. Like I had been carrying around this dead weight for months, and now. Gone. I didn't check mutual friends' updates about her anymore. I didn't wonder what she was doing. I didn't care. She wasn't my concern. Because for the first time in a long time, I was happy. A new life, a better love. Emma and I grew closer. She wasn't just some rebound or distraction, she was real. The kind of woman who laughed at my dumb jokes, who actually listened when I talked about my day, who didn't take me for granted. And the best part? I never had to question her loyalty. She showed me what a real relationship was supposed to feel like. No mind games. No betrayal. Just two people choosing each other every single day. I realized then that Michelle was never my future. She was just a mistake I had to make in order to find something better. And I did. Michelle's fate? Not my problem. Last I heard, Michelle was still struggling. Still bouncing from job to job, still single, still stuck in her own mess. And Dan? Completely irrelevant. No job, no wife, no power. Just a washed-up has-been who lost everything over a fling that meant nothing. Poetic justice. No regrets. No looking back. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be happier than ever while Michelle was stuck in a miserable downward spiral, I wouldn't have believed you. But here I was. Thriving. And her? Well, she was nothing more than a lesson I'd never forget. Game over, Michelle. I won.